The first time I came out to California was the year before I moved here for good. Everything fascinated me here. The beaches, the mountains, the palm trees, the exotic fruits, the freeways, and the laid-back attitude. Nothing could keep me away. There was one element here, though, that seemed to be trying its best to frighten me off and keep me from becoming a Californian. Everyone was talking about a very popular movie that year, and so one evening my uncle took me to the theater to see it after a fun day at the beach. The movie's name was Jaws. Now, I am not easily frightened, but there was one particular scene which caused me quite literally to jump out of my seat with a shriek of terror. I think you all remember that scene. Since that time, I have never quite lost my fear of sharks, or earthquakes for that matter, but neither the tremors of the earth nor the terrors of the sea could keep me away from this otherwise pleasant piece of paradise we call home. Yet I have also come to learn some things about those ominous creatures with the fearsome fin. I have eaten the meat of sharks and found it very good. I have discovered unique and fascinating aspects of their lives from which we could all take a lesson. One thing I heard some time ago was that certain species of shark, including the great white, have to keep moving in order to stay alive. If they stop swimming, their breathing stops and they die. No matter what, they have to keep going as if their life depended upon it, because it does. It has to do, apparently, with their breathing apparatus and how these sharks are designed. They have to have a constant flow of water over and through their gills to be able to extract the oxygen they need to live. So they have to keep moving if they want to keep living. As human beings, we have a tendency to resist change. We don't like to move on. We would much rather stay put. I know I'm like that. Yet life is always moving us on, whether we like it or not. It begins after our first 9 months. And most of us emerge kicking and screaming from the comfort of the womb as we are pushed out into a strange and terrifying new world we have never seen. A world which, for all we know, might be swimming with sharks. And God smiles, knowing something we do not know. Throughout our life, we move from one stage to another. We graduate from one school to enter another. We pass from childhood to youth to adulthood to middle age to the golden years. We enter each stage kicking and screaming and fearing the unseen sharks in the unknown new waters. But when it's time to leave it, we cling to it, because it is by then something familiar, something we are used to, something we have come to love, even with all the sharks. And God smiles. Sometimes we even have to move from one place to another, and the goodbyes are the hardest thing in the world. And God smiles. Then comes the biggest move of all, that terrifying one, when we pass from this world to the next. That one somehow seems to come as a surprise to us, even though it is the one and only certain thing in life, the one move no one is spared. Again we go kicking and screaming, and God smiles, for God knows what we do not know. If it were up to most of us would never have left the womb. The shark understands what we do not. You have to keep moving to keep living. It matters, however, a great deal in which direction we are moving. The ancient Samoans discovered something else about the shark. Amazingly, they used to kill them without knives, simply by paddling up to them in their canoes, tying a rope around their tail, and dragging them backwards through the water. Going backwards killed the shark. We now know that going backwards floods the gills, interrupts the breathing process, and drowns them. A shark can never go backwards if it wants to live. There are people who indeed want to keep moving, but who are always trying to move backwards, always trying to go back to a time that once was, back to a place that was once theirs, back to something they remember or think they remember. Backwards kills the shark. We can never truly go back to anything. We have to move on. How difficult it must have been for the friends of Jesus as he was moving on. They did not want him to go. But he reassures them, I will not leave you orphans. In a little while the world will no longer see me, but you will see me, because I live and you live. You are in me, and I in you. Facing new waters, as we so often and so inevitably do, let us move boldly forward, conscious that we are not alone, we are not orphaned. We are in God, and in us is God. And God smiles, for God sees what we do not. That as we dive in, fearing the unknown, fearing the sharks, fearing the fear itself, we are diving hand in hand with Him.